Hi, I'm Krista Arthur, and welcome to the Consilien Report. We're starting a multi-part series focused on how to help organizations evolve through this crisis. We're starting with Eric Kong, who is the CEO of Consilien. That's our first interview. And he's going to talk about data security for your remote workers. But it's not just what your employees should and shouldn't be doing. It's really how to set up the infrastructure in such a way that it supports data security, data handling, redundancy. And that's split up in two parts. Later, we're going to be talking to an insurance specialist on managing risk. We're going to be talking to some of our friends at Manufacturers Bank about the CARE Act. And then finally, we're going to be talking to one of our top attorneys here in California on reorganization and bankruptcy. So there's going to be a lot of really useful information, again, to help you evolve through this crisis and hopefully thrive, setting ourselves up for long-term success. So stay tuned.
Hi, how are you?
Good, really good. All things considered, we're doing well. How are you doing?
Good. And just, we're doing a lot more of this virtual interaction than we do normally get together for a physical meeting. It's all now done virtual.
Absolutely. In fact, that is the perfect lead-in for our topic today, which is going to be on data handling for employees. I imagine that so many employers were in a mad rush to get their employees home and set up that maybe they didn't think about some of the more crucial aspects of what that implies in regards to how they should be handling company data, how they should be accessing it. So I thought this was the perfect opportunity for us to talk about that and share some of our best practices.
Yeah, that's a perfect point. And one of the big things that all companies who are having employees work from home should really be concerned in regards to data use policy and employee. And especially given that people are generally not used to working from home inside a work environment, people tend to do behave a little bit, and a lot of times employees are trained, for security best practices and stuff like that. And once they move home and start working from home environment, which is usually tends to be more relaxed, a little more informal,
and maybe even chaotic right now if they have partners and kids at home. Yeah.
And kids running home, it's gonna distract away from the normal focus of having the best security practices. And this is the most important time for employers to remind their employees and say, hey, just because you're working from home, all your security best practices that you've been taught, gone through training and learned over the years, you need to be really conscious of it. Like phishing emails, that's something you really have to watch out for. In addition to that, one of the things that they should all be aware of too is that they really need to remind employees to go ahead and enforce the company data use policy. It's very easy for a lot of employees, and this is practices that we've seen over the years. Typically, most companies used to having the manager or the salespeople who are used to working remotely, but now with the advent of this pandemic, they're going to be employees who are going to be frustrated, and they're just going to say, hey, what? It just, this performance of remote connecting just isn't as good as it working directly from the office. So let me just go get around that problem and just email these files to myself home, and let me work on it on my home computer. That's a big issue in regards to having company intellectual property.
Can we talk about that? Why would they be feeling frustrated? What specifically is going on between the remote work environment versus being in the office that employees are feeling frustrated and that they may have to do a workaround like email files to themselves?
Right. The internet infrastructure isn't robust enough, meaning they don't have enough bandwidth to support remote workers. Just because a company has got enough internet bandwidth normally to support companies' employees using the internet while they're in the office doesn't mean that it's going to give them enough internet connectivity bandwidth-wise to support hundreds of employees working remotely. Case in point, a lot of small to medium-sized businesses, SMBs, or even into the small enterprise space, they're used to working with internet bandwidth as asynchronous, meaning that they may have 400 or 500 megabytes of data download, but they only have maybe 20 or 30 megabytes upload. But that's fine when you have all your employees working from the office where they're consuming most of the bandwidth coming in,
right,
not going out. But when you take all the employees and flip them to the outside working from the internet, from the other side of the internet connecting into the office, all of a sudden when they need to access files, access documents and stuff like that, you need to use that 40 megs that you may have internally to try to push out to support hundreds of users. People are not going, they're going to have a choke point. You're not going to be able to support all the infrastructure requirements for all the employees all at the same time, and people are going to end up seeing performance degradation, and that could be part of what's happening to the employees. Not to mention, you also want to look at is your firewall robust enough? Do you have enough licensing to support the VPN connection? And VPN it's another one of those security pieces that you need to take into consideration. If you let employees work remotely, you definitely need to secure the endpoints, meaning that wherever they're working from home, going back to the corporate environment, they need to utilize technologies like VPN, or at the very least some kind of secure remote desktop access technology like go to my PC or log me in or something along those lines. Talking about which log me in is a technology that we leverage as part of our tool set to manage our clients. So we use that to provision our clients remote access.
So how does the log me in, how does that work? Or is that like a substitute for the VPN? Is that what you're saying? They can use it?
It would not be a substitute. It's a technology that can work in concurrence with. Log me in is convenient for to provision for users that needs to remote connect into a PC that they have inside the corporate environment, and they're consuming all the stuff that's inside. It's actually got certain, and that really comes down to talking about remote desktop technology, which I know there's going to be a follow-on topic we're going to talk about another time. By having you basically leveraging remote desktop type technology and go ahead and let employee access the PCs that is assigned to them at the office without having to pull data out. But if you don't have enough infrastructure or bandwidth to support it, as we've talked about, you're going to end up getting frustrated. And people will still going to say, oh, let me just go ahead and grab these handful of files and let me just go email them my own Gmail account. And, work on those documents remotely at home. And it's one of those things that all companies should really take a long, hard look at reviewing the HR policy and remind their employees and say, hey, well, this, you may be tempted to do this, but this is definitely against company policy. Do not utilize your own personal email account to handle company business, and do not use your own personal computers to go ahead and to work on company documents and company data. That's a very that's always been one of the traditional sore points for company security policy and leaking data. Especially privileged information, both in terms of financial as well as intellectual properties.
So no personal email, don't use your personal computer, but I imagine that a lot of employees are using their personal computers. What would you recommend in that case?
If companies that are using computers, there's a number of issues that surrounds that when you're using a personal computer to use for business. Part of it is HR policies and rules and laws and like that. That start getting into a certain area that you really need to consult with your HR, maybe even legal, and find out that you need to have consent from your employees to do that. That's number one. Number two is the problem with using personalized PCs or laptops or Macs at home to use to access and work on the company. You ended up taking data and passing on to a platform where the company has got no control. So once the data goes out there, you're not sure, you don't know how secure it is, you don't know what the security posture on these machines are, you don't know whether the antivirus is up to date, it's not actively managed, it may not be patched up to the levels you should be. So it's just usually a bad idea to do it that way. Now, in some instances, if you're leveraging technology such as like log me in or go to my PC or remote desktop type technology, certain amount of that can be mitigated because you really only, with a log me in or remote desktop technology, you really only sending keystroke and mouse back to a PC that's actually on a computing platform that's still within the company environment, and you're only sending the screen from the computer. So you're not actually taking the document themselves and sending it to the machines. You're really using your own remote access. Now, if you're only using it to do that, and you do get the employee's consent, you could be okay to do that. It's not the same as letting employees putting on a VPN client on the home PC and letting them connect through the firewall at the company and pull data directly off the company hard drives.
Right.
local PC. So that's a difference there. So either way you look at it, it's generally from our recommendations is that do not use employees' personal PCs to access company data. It's just
Right.
not a recommended way. It's actually a surefire way of leaking company data.
Well, especially with all the phishing that's going on, because we know that there's the COVID-19, they're being phished. There's a new phishing technique where, not technique, but they are getting a voicemail link and saying there's a voicemail for you. They can get e-fax too. I've seen where the employee, if there's not good communication, the employee thinks, oh, I guess we're using this new e-fax or we're using Dropbox, and they're downloading payloads. So if they're doing that on their personal computer and they have company data on there, sensitive financial information, that can be disastrous.
Yes.
Does that sound right?
Definitely true. And then one of the other things that most people don't think about, and I know more and more people have got multiple computers at home and stuff like that. And those, even if the employees is absolutely sure that they are very careful what they do, but you just don't know which other family members at home, maybe using
Right.
things, especially when you have kids around.
Yeah.
It's very hard to teach kids, absolute hygiene level in terms of security. And they're going to say, oh, that's a new game. I want to go ahead and play with that and download. And just, that could expose them to all kinds of potential viruses on the computer. And just from a security management standpoint and a risk management standpoint, it's just not a good idea to let employee access company data directly. Like I said, again, if you're using some kind of remote desktop technology and it is given that we're in a pandemic situation where all the employees are working from home, yeah, that can be mitigated to a certain extent if you're just letting them, do remote access. But if you definitely do not want the whole machines to be connected to the firewall using VPN and let them directly access your company data.
Let me understand that. So we don't want them to connect directly to the firewall using their own VPN, like if they download a VPN?
Using their own computers to do
Using
that.
their own computers.
No, it's obviously okay if the company issue them with a laptop that the company has control over.
I got it.
You can be assured it's patched, policy applied to it, and it's it's provisioned by the company's IT department or managed service providers such as ourselves, because we'll lock down the machine where it's only the company PC, and obviously at the end of the day that machine still belongs to the company. And if the employee do depart the organization, that piece of machinery comes back to the company.
Right. That's definitely the best way to go. So is there anything else that you can think of regarding best practices for safeguarding company data? I think we've covered quite a bit today.
Yeah, most of that, a lot of that we've covered, but one of the on one of your follow-up topics, we talk about remote desktop technologies and stuff from within the company environment. But the best thing a company can do right now, besides what we just talked about, is really just remind employees of the security best practices they have learned. If they don't, maybe if they have some kind of online training for security awareness, they really should remind employees to go ahead and, hey, look, this is a refresher course, or even just as simple as having HR send out, data use policy from the company and send it out to the employee. A general reminder in, when they're working in new environment is it's going to be a lot more helpful than a lot of technology you can put in place at this point.
Yeah. Now those are some really good suggestions. Now that we're all at home working, it looks like we're going to be home working for a while, that data use policy would be a good thing for companies to do. We do provide, as you know, security awareness training. So I'll put some information in the link if organizations want to use our training to help their employees, and we can talk about some of those policies and procedures. Yeah. So this was terrific. Thank you.
Definitely help a company review their data use policy and take a look at overall security policy and also security posture. And I'm sure that this is as good a time to review and update those as they as we have at least at this point another month of this lockdown, at least in California.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you very much.